Welcome to Around the World with Dane Waters. I'm your host, Dane Waters. I really, I say this every week. I want to say something different. I should say I'm Robert Duvall, but I can't say I'm Robert Duvall because sadly Robert Duvall passed away at 94 years of age. So, I don't know. Sad. He's a great, phenomenal actor. So he's going to be missed. But what's going on in the world, real quick? Well, Trump is sending more military assets to the Middle East, closer to Iran. What that means, we're not really sure. I think he's just trying to use it as a kind of a tactic to force the Iranians into some kind of diplomatic concessions while they do their negotiations. We'll have to see. But once again, I really wish that we definitely need a regime change in the region. We'll see how that works out. We'll talk about the Guthrie case. They still haven't found who has kidnapped her. She's 84 years of age, and it's really sad and interesting. I kind of thought that one of the family members might be involved, but they cleared all the family members. It's really bad for me to even say that, but I don't know. Maybe I'm a little bit of a conspiracy nut, but we'll have to see about that. So what else is going on? The Olympics, Winter Olympics. Of course, you can't have a Winter Olympics without some kind of controversy. I've never been a curling fan. I didn't even know what curling was, but apparently, if you just touch the whatever the stone for like a half a second too long with your finger, you're going to get disqualified. So, the Canadians, I never liked the Canadians anyway. But once again, I'm only saying all this just to rile up my next guest. So, who just I don't know why, but but what else is going on? I don't. Just once again, it's just a matter of the world is just in a really weird place. I mean, we have controversy, we have violence, we have so much darkness in the world. It's very disappointing. However, when we come back from our break, our first guest is going to kind of enlighten us and tell us and make us everything wonderful and tell us what's going on positive around the world. So anyway, let's take a quick break from Around the World with Dane Waters, and we'll be back in a minute. Thank you. Well, it is what is okay. Welcome back to Around the World with Dane Waters. You almost caught me talking and same thing, hot mic there, but luckily I caught myself. So first, I want to welcome our amazing guest, Meelie Pemberton. How are you, Meelie?
I'm very well, thanks. Ready to talk about this part of the world.
I'm sure. Hey, listen, I do a lot of shows about the Middle East and about that region, and it's always very difficult to talk about. As you know, you're there, you're in Beirut, and but let's just, let's first tell us a little bit about you and your background.
Oh, well, I mean, thank you for having me and lovely to finally meet you almost in person. So yeah, I'm Meelie, the co-founder and director of an organization called WingWoman Lebanon. I have a background in teaching chemistry, and then as a result of my experience here, have ended up doing NGO management. And in very brief of how I ended up in Lebanon, I was living in Australia and decided it was probably time to go home to the UK and thought I'd just pass by, do some volunteering, make myself useful, and assumed that I was just coming for 2 months. And that is now 7 years ago, and we are still here because this place is just completely infectious. Despite all its challenges, there is so much positivity here. So I definitely can come in on the positive side of things in this part of the world as well.
Well, it is amazing. Listen, the Middle East, and especially Lebanon, is a great place. I've spent many years there myself, and but it's amazing about just first of all, you have a positive attitude, so that's the start. That's, having a
You
positive
need it. You
attitude,
need it
and
around here.
yeah. So let's talk about. I mean, primarily what I want to focus on today is just the reality is women are the backbone of the world. They are. I mean, they truly are, and they even though they're the backbone of the world, I do think that they face some of the most difficult challenges in the world through a whole host of reasons. And but in the Middle East, we have a situation where there's a lot of poverty. There's a lot of, as you know, in Lebanon, there are a lot of Syrian refugees that come into the country. There are a lot of, and a lot of these women, they're just poor. I mean, in many cases, their husbands have been, have been killed in conflict, and they're single parents, single mothers, and so it's just a very difficult time. So talk to us a little bit about the challenges that the women in that part of the world are facing these days.
Mm, yeah, good question. I think when you said, these people arrive and they're poor, I think often as a result of lacking opportunities. And this also applies to men in this part of the world too, but I think the lack of availability of opportunities for these women to not only provide for their families, but to show themselves how capable and competent they are, I think is what is really missing and something that we work to provide. Um, I mean, very, very in brief, because I come from a specific angle. Our organization was set up to provide work opportunities for women. And we do this through producing reusable period pads and reusable diapers. So I very much see the side of things from period poverty and people not being able to access products, but also people not having opportunities. You know, it's very difficult for women to enter the workforce here, whether it's pressures from home or pressures from wider society. So I would say the biggest challenges that I see for women through our work is self-belief, opportunity, and then obviously period poverty comes into all these things.
Well, let's take that period poverty. I mean, and
Mm,
let's talk through that because you know, once again, it's kind of. I mean, I'm a guy, of course. You know, something I can't really personally relate to, so my audience must forgive me. But I can understand that that from the standpoint of the periods that happen every month for a woman. I mean, I can understand that if you can't really properly address that, that does impact other parts of your life as a woman, right? It really does. So, and so walk us through this whole concept of period poverty.
yeah, I mean, honestly, it's a big question. There are many parts of it. I mean, I mean, it's interesting when you said I can't necessarily relate to this as a man. I also think women in privileged positions are in a similar, come from a similar perspective. I was chatting to a very wealthy woman the other night, and she said, God, this is, you think about people living in poverty. They don't have access to food, they don't have access to healthcare, but you never think of the tangible item of period products. And it goes so beyond the products. I mean, clean spaces to change, access to accurate, reliable knowledge. Um, but there was a very interesting study here that has, really formed how we approach our work, which was talking about how even if it is not a financial issue for a family, which, just to be clear, it is for most families in Lebanon.
It was a little bit mealy there, so I'm missing part of what you're saying. So, oh, there you go.
Oh,
No, I'm back. We're back now, so it's good. Anyway, there we go, Mealy. Sorry. Well, welcome back, Mealy. So, this is one of the trials and tribulations of doing shows from around the world. Sometimes we run
well,
into these issues. Can
yeah,
you
I
hear
do
me now?
apologize.
No,
Yes, I can
no.
hear you. So sorry. Where did I cut off on my?
Well, you were talking about the myriad issues associated with period poverty and about it's not just necessarily a financial issue. Um, so take us from there.
Yeah. Okay. And I just to reiterate the statistic in case it wasn't clear, um, that only 9% of women uh, assessed in the multi-sectoral needs assessment this year said they had access to products. So it is a huge issue about products as well. But there was a very interesting study that has really formulated how we do our work, which talked about how this is not prioritized as an issue, as a something to buy in the families. But perhaps when there is money for it, women are too embarrassed to ask their husbands, or perhaps their husbands are too embarrassed to go to the shop and buy these products. Or if the woman has got the money and is going to the shop herself, she gets harassed by the male shopkeeper. Like the barriers to this are just endless. And it really leads to isolation and people not being able to go to work, girls not being able to go to school. They fall behind their male peers. The parents sometimes see that as a reason to take them out of school. And it's just a self perpetuating cycle. So I'm often amazed when I hear women's organizations not tackling this issue. It is so fundamental to everything about keeping girls in schools and the impacts of that.
Well, it's interesting you say. I remember when I was younger, my mother, before, she would send me to the store to buy two things. One is pads, and the other are cigarettes. And as a young man, it was, listen, just be blunt about it. It is embarrassing for a guy. It shouldn't be. It shouldn't
Yeah,
be. It is
shouldn't be.
embarrassing for a guy, to go in there. But I also, in many of these parts of the world that I travel in, there is this poverty, so that you don't have access. You can't buy toothpaste, you can't buy pads, you can't buy deodorant, you can't buy any of these basic things that are needed. And I think that this is important because the show is broadcast in parts of the world where there's extreme poverty. So let's talk about this. So as a man, I mean, I guess one message I want to get across with the show is for men. Let me ask you this: if you were addressing the men and only the men, what would you say to them about how to support their significant other in this regard?
Oh, that is a good question. I think it's just let the conversations happen. We do all this work. We provide educational sessions to women, and it is amazing. Sometimes the anger you see in the women that this conversation hasn't been allowed to happen before. But our fear is that, they come to our sessions, they in the moment get really empowered and angry about the fact that they can't talk about it. And then we worry they go home and the conversation is shut down in the home again. So I think it's just opening the conversation, giving women the space to have it and say what they're feeling and not being judgmental. And, we appreciate this is a stigmatized topic. And I've tried to think about things that I feel uncomfortable talking about and remembering it can give a physical reaction inside your body when you realize there's these conversations you're not used to having. So I think it's just opening the space to have the conversation and encourage the women, which is not always easy because the men come with these internalized stigmas as well. But yeah, I think creating space for the conversation so that they can then discuss the pads and the importance of having access to products. And it needs to be prioritized in a household. It is not a luxury item.
No, and I think that's a very important thing because I don't think men understand and appreciate the importance of having access to menstrual products. I mean, and the impact that, I mean, because I don't want to get, it's one of those difficult conversations. I don't want to get graphic about it, but the reality is if women don't have access to these products, I went out once with a young lady a long, long time ago. This is going to be really bad to say, but I'm just going to just push through this, so and we were on a business trip and we were out there and then and she was wearing white pants, right? And then suddenly she had her cycle started and it's very embarrassing. I mean, it's one of those things really felt for her, but at the same time I was very embarrassed as well, and I shouldn't
Mm,
be. And this is
yeah.
because it's one of those things. It's not like an evil thing. It's like it's happened since the beginning of time. It's a natural occurrence. But I think we men need to do a much better job of respecting and understanding that situation. So talk
Mm.
about what your NGO specifically does to help. I mean, other than education, what do you do to help address this issue?
Well, we tackle it from a number of views. I mean, it's interesting how the period products came about because actually this organization was set up to provide work opportunities. And there was a lot of conversation with this group of women that I was engaged with about how they actually just needed to make some money. They were enjoying the sewing classes that we were putting on, but ultimately there wasn't much point in them coming if they're not making money. And so we started thinking about products we could make. And you can't see, but if I was in person, you'd notice I am not that into fashion. And they were trying to push for handbags. And I just thought, I will not be able to emotionally get behind this. So started kind of suggesting more societally beneficial products. And at first, it did not go down well with the reusable pads. So I then had to sit in my house, like trying to make one myself, obviously limited sewing skills, if any, and then went back to them. And then they were laughing at me and took this idea home to their friends in the Palestinian camps here. And their friends were like, God, we need this. So then they came back to me and were kind of laughing about how they'd had this conversation. And then their friends were saying, this is actually super important. And it's kind of gone from there. If the women also realizing by producing these products, what an impact they're having on their community. And it's kind of led our organization to, well, we haven't shifted. We've become a kind of menstrual health organization, but actually we bring such a the thing that we try and bring is helping women believe in themselves so they can support themselves with solutions. So, for example, we provide these long-term opportunities for these women who've worked with us for a while. But we also do these short-term programs where we bring groups of women together. We always start with a menstrual health session, but it's actually about teaching them to produce the reusable pads themselves. And I went down to visit one of these projects in the south the other day, and I cannot tell you the energy in the room. It's just together in a safe space where they're doing something meaningful. It's extraordinary. And it's kind of making me think about the way that we do our work and what the most important way to give women this sense of self-belief. I heard something, it's a bit cliched, but I heard something on a podcast the other day that said, we don't need to build communities with women. We just need to awaken it. Like this is within all of us as human beings. We just need to provide spaces where women can come together, feel comfortable. And we're trying to add a layer to this project where the women take the knowledge and the information and share it with their communities themselves. So they are producing 1,000 pads, and we want to engage them in distributing it within their communities to help normalize the conversation from people that they know and trust already. So, yeah, does that answer your question?
No,
Or that
it definitely
might have
does.
been a good tangent.
No, no, it definitely does, and I can understand. It's like all of us as individuals, and like when we get up in the morning, and if somehow we just not feeling right, or comfortable to leave our house or home to go to work, I mean that makes an impact. And I can understand, where women, if they don't have access to pads, just say, I don't want to leave the house, I can't go to work. It's very embarrassing.
Mm,
So I can see it and understand exactly the importance of giving women that self-confidence to go out and actually work and to go to their jobs.
mm,
And one question is, like we look at, what's happening in Gaza and other, refugee camps and, a lot of places where aid trucks have to come in. So do aid trucks typically bring in pads, or is it just not something that's considered a net necessity when they deliver aid to these areas?
I think it is now. I do think, there's never enough, is there? And I think this is where we come in with our reusable products that last up to 3 years. We know they're not always suitable. And actually, a massive advocate for reusable pads, and the all the data that we have from distributing our products shows that there's also an impact on reducing stress for women, because it's about knowing every month that you have access to something. And a really big part of our work is not to take away choice from women about what products they use. We just want to make sure women have access to a product, and we have seen so many times in our data that just knowing you have something at that time of the month is a huge comfort to women, and it's dignified. I should definitely have one of our pads here now, but they're really colourful and pretty and like come in little beautiful packaging until we let our logistics officer off on procuring materials, and I noticed an influx of pads with the Barcelona football logo on. I thought,
Oh no.
put a man in charge of period pad materials, this will happen. But yeah, I think there's for a reusable pad, but I think yeah, it is really good, and I appreciate you raising the awareness of making sure pads are included in these aid trucks and distributions, because it is so invaluable. I mean, I don't know if you saw any of the reports coming out of Gaza where women were ripping up bits of their tents to use as pads. They have no alternative, and there are other really good solutions out there as well. I mean, there's menstrual cups, which are made of silicone, which can wash very easily and need less water. But in this part of the world, culturally, that is just really not an option at this point. It's very sensitive and based on stigmas and myths around virginity and inserting something. So a reusable pad is definitely more suitable at this time.
So first of all, if women want to get more information about the stuff that you provide, where would they go?
So on our website, you can find information. I mean, the model of our organization is that we tend to work through other NGOs. So we have a few different revenue streams, if you like, where we bring in grants and we do trainings and then give our products away for free. We bring in donations. also enabling us to give our products away for free. But also we do sell our products. So most of our work is selling our products to international larger organizations who people most in need. But we do sell directly in Lebanon. And just in case there is anybody listening from other parts of the world, we are so ready to help and share information about how to make our products. If you work in an organization, we've been helping an organization in the West Bank of obviously not charging anything, just share. We just want more people to have these products. We are not protective. We definitely haven't copyrighted our pads because the only thing that's going to cause is less people to have reusable products. And also, it is not groundbreaking in terms of innovation. You could figure it out yourself. But if people want help, please reach out. We are so, so ready to share our materials and support with that.
And then go, was it wingwomen.com? Is that what it is, where they would go?
WingWoman
Wingwomen.com?
Lebanon, woman.
Wingwoman. Wingwoman. Wingwoman.com. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, real quick, we have like a minute left here. So let's talk about, outside of that, talk about opportunities for women. I mean, as somebody who's lived in the Middle East, and I mean, there's a lot of cultural issues associated with it, and it's a very difficult. But what do you see? Do you see that things are changing in the Middle East for women, or do you think that it's still as difficult as ever?
I'm not sure. As a white woman living here, I'm very qualified to comment on that. One positive thing I've seen, we've had some friends from here recently moved back to Syria, and they live in a very rural area northwest of Hama. And the dad was saying to me that very interestingly, before the war, um, girls were just not educated. It wasn't a thing. And so a lot of families have returned to his village and all the girls are in education. So I'm not sure the cause of that or what's caused that mindset shift, but it does seem that there is an emphasis on girls also being educated and a value of the importance of that. So maybe that's more of a positive spin on things. But I don't, yeah,
Well,
I don't feel qualified to necessarily answer that.
I mean, it's just well. But here's a simple question for you though. Do you see being in Lebanon? Do you see that a lot of the Syrian refugees are going back to Syria?
Or it's very mixed. I actually was in an event about this last night, and I think the head of UNHCR was saying that 500,000 have gone back. Oof, I'm actually not sure if I've quoted that correctly. But there is also an influx of people coming, minority groups coming to Lebanon. So there's a real mix. And I mean, interestingly, the man who works in our building downstairs, he is a Christian from the south, and for the first time in this war has brought his family to Lebanon. And his cousin, who is from the same village, also lives here. He says it's absolutely fine and hasn't brought his family across. So it's very hard to know what the situation is. I've been to visit our lovely friend Ali in his village, and it's overwhelming sense of need for support, but incredibly positive in terms of people coming back and feeling super happy. The children who've been born and raised in Lebanon and felt quite oppressed feel incredibly free. And having struggled slightly to reintegrate, which was something I hadn't considered, they're very happy to be back.
Hmm.
So I think,
Right.
yeah, it depends who you talk to, seemingly.
Yeah, it was definitely the refugee situation was something that definitely was had a major impact on Lebanon overall. So listen,
Mm.
Mealy, it's great to finally meet you, as you said. We've chatted a lot, and thanks to our friend Gareth Brown for bringing us together and to
Oh,
talk
he'll
about
love
this.
the name drop.
Yeah, Gareth, I got to do a plug for Gareth. He's been on the show a couple of times, but listen, I really appreciate it, and congratulations and on all the stuff that you're doing, and good luck. And I look forward to learning more about what you're doing. So, but
Well, thank you
thanks,
very much
man.
for having me and enjoy
Thank
your
you.
time in Hampshire.
Thank you.